Hi everyone, and happy St. Patrick's Day. So today we're going to work on multiplying polynomials. So there are notes in Schoology for you in your polynomial folder that say multiplying polynomials. So during this video, while we go through how to do this, you can definitely split screen so that you can fill in your notes and the examples that are in there as we follow through the rest of our slides. So you can definitely pause at any time so that you can fill in what you see on the screen and then restart it so that you can work through the examples. So we're going to get started with the first set, which is called monomials multiplied by other monomials. So remember what we talked about last week and earlier this week is that monomials mean that they are one term. So it's probably a coefficient, some variables. The variables have some exponents. So when we multiply monomials by monomials, math that we're going to do is multiplying the coefficients together, including their signs. And then we'll multiply the variables. So any variable that is the same, keep in mind those are our bases, and we're going to add their exponents. So when I look at a term, if I see something with a whole bunch of x's in it, and I look at their exponents, I'm going to look at just the x, and I'm going to add each of those exponents together. Same would go if I had y's in different terms that I'm multiplying, or a's or b's. Anything that's alike as a base, I'm going to add those exponents together. And that coincides with what we talked about with our exponent rules earlier this week. So we have some examples. The first one is negative 3a to the fourth b to the third times negative 5a to the seventh b times 2b squared. So those are three different monomials. My first step is going to be to multiply these coefficients together. So we have negative 3 times negative 5, which is positive 15, times 2, which will give us 30. And then we're going to look at the variables. So I have an a to the fourth and an a to the seventh. So that base is going to stay. And I'm going to add 4 and 7 together and get that new exponent to be 11. And then we have b to the third, b to the first, and b squared. So we'll have a b, and then add those exponents, 3 plus 1 plus 2. And that should give us b to the sixth power. So this would be our final answer. Okay, 30, a to the 11th, b to the 6th. Monomials multiplied with other monomials will give us a monomial answer. Question 2, we have 5ab to the fourth, and that monomial is raised to the third power. So we can expand this. Sometimes that's a little bit easier to see. We have 5ab to the fourth times 5ab to the fourth times 5ab to the fourth. That exponent outside is telling me it's that monomial 3 times. And similarly, we can multiply those coefficients, 5, 5, 5. So 5 times 5 is 25. 25 times 5 is 125. A, and A is going to get us a to the third. And then b to the fourth, b to the fourth, b to the fourth gets us b to the 12th. Another method for that one, you can absolutely use your exponent rules. So you can apply this third to the 5, to the a, and then b to the fourth third using your exponent rules. Next up, multiplying by a monomial. So that means that we're going to have a monomial, and it's probably going to be multiplied into and with some other polynomials, binomials, trinomials, 4 terms, 5 terms. It's a big distribution property. Okay, so remember back to when we did distribution, the number outside the parentheses distributed through multiplication to everything inside the parentheses. What we have to just be careful of are signs, pluses, minuses, as well as our exponent rules when we're working through each of those questions. So we'll start with the first example. We have negative 2a squared, that's our monomial, and we're going to multiply that with what's inside the parentheses, 5a to the third minus 3a. Inside that parentheses is our, hopefully you said binomial. So we're going to take this monomial and we're distributing it to both of these terms. So I'm just going to show you the expanded version of what you're going to kind of be thinking about that you're doing, which is 2a squared times 5a to the third. And then because that's a minus, or you can kind of think of it as a combination, so you can always put plus, going to be negative 2a squared times a negative 3a. So that's kind of what your expansion is, what you're working through. You can also do it in your head mentally, not a problem. I just wanted you to see the middle step. So when you do that math, you're going to end up with negative 10a to the fifth plus 6a to the third. So a negative times a negative will make that a positive. Second one, negative 4x squared y to the third. Also, again, that's our monomial. Multiplied with 7x to the fourth y to the third plus 9xy, another binomial. So this monomial outside distributes to both. If you like that middle step of the expansion, please feel free. If you think you're ready to do it, just kind of talking it through in your head, that's fine too. Okay, so negative 4 times 7 gets us a negative 28. X squared, x to the fourth is going to get us x to the sixth. Y to the third gets us y to the sixth, adding those exponents. Then we have negative 4x squared y to the third times 9xy. So those coefficients, negative 4 times 9, this time is going to be a minus 36. X squared and x gets us up to x to the third, and y to the third and y to the first gets us y to the fourth. Again, if you would like to do the expansion, just like we did in number 1, please feel free. Every one of these questions, as we move forward, it's just thinking of it as distribution. What we're adding into this from what we've done earlier this year is the fact that we now have variables as well as those exponents. So we have to remember our rule. Multiplication, same base, same variable, add exponents. Now we have one of my favorites, binomials times binomials. They have a little acronym to help us go, and it is called FOIL. So you might have heard of this method, maybe in passing, but FOIL is just a way to remind us of how to distribute each term of our binomial as we multiply to each term of our other binomial. As an acronym, each letter in FOIL stands for a term in there that we're going to work with. So for FOIL F, that means our first terms. You're going to multiply the first term in each set of parentheses. O, multiplying the outside terms of the parentheses. I, inside or inner, multiplying the inside terms, the ones that are the closest together. And L, multiplying our last terms. When you multiply a binomial times a binomial using this FOIL method, you end up with 4 terms when you multiply the F, the O, the I, the L. You will most likely have sometimes some like terms. Usually they come from the outer and the inner. So you can combine those together, making sure that you include all of the signs that are needed, okay, especially for the negatives. If the first term turns out to be positive, you don't have to write that. And again, our rules for our exponents with our like variables is still something we think about. Some of these questions, your answers might end up being binomials because of the way that things combine. Some will end up to be trinomials. Some might work out that there's 4 terms as polynomials. So as long as we just kind of follow the pattern, we should be good to go. Again, if at any point you need to pause to get the notes down, please feel free. All right, so we're going to use that method and move on to some of our examples. So again, these are binomials multiplied with other binomials. So first one, x plus 2 times x minus 5. So I'm just going to use different colors, but listen just to the wording that we take. So my first terms are x times x. X times x is x squared. O, outer, x times negative 5. That's going to get us negative 5x. I, inside, 2 times x. That's going to get us positive 2x. And last, 2 times negative 5, going to give us negative 10. Okay, so this is first, outer, inner, last. For this particular question, these two terms are alike, so we're going to combine them for our final answer to be x squared minus 3x minus 10. Number 2, we got a minus 3 times a plus 3. Again, binomial times binomial, so we're going to use the same pattern. First, a times a gets us a squared. Outer, a times 3 gets us 3a. Inner, negative 3 times a, negative 3a. And last, negative 3 times 3 gets us negative 9. Middle terms are alike. Positive 3 minus 3, both with the a in it. They actually are going to cancel each other out. So when we simplify this one, it becomes a squared minus 9. So this one just turns into a binomial because those terms in the middle will cancel out to 0. And then number 3, I'm just going to do to the side here. So number 3 is y minus 4, and that binomial is squared. So when a binomial is squared, we need to expand it. It's going to say y minus 4 multiplied by itself, y minus 4. And we're going to follow that FOIL pattern again. Y times y is y squared. Y times negative 4, negative 4y. Negative 4 times y, negative 4y. Negative 4 times negative 4 turns us to a positive 16. Middle are alike, so final answer, y squared minus 8y plus 16. And that brings us to our last set, which is just multiplying polynomials. It doesn't matter what types they are. They could be trinomials times trinomials, 4 terms times 3 terms. So there's no real big trick or acronym that we follow. What we have to understand is that it's just distribution of multiplying each term in one set of parentheses, sometimes we call it the first set, by each term in the second set of parentheses. So this is one where colors might help you if you change your pen, and just staying consistent with what you're multiplying. Be very careful with all of your signs, especially when it comes to negatives and positives. Make sure that you do combine like terms at the end. So a lot of times with these, you will eventually, because of adding those exponents together with the like bases, have terms that end up being alike that you'll be able to simplify further. Some key things just to keep in mind: if you have 3 binomials and you're working through multiplying them, you can FOIL 2 of them and then do your distribution with the last one. If a binomial is cubed, just like we saw on the previous slide where it was squared, we're going to take that binomial and multiply it by itself 3 times using the same steps. You can FOIL 2 of them and then multiply and distribute into the last. Again, just lots of distribution, adding and progressing on from things we've done this year. In our next piece, you have some examples. So we have a binomial x plus 2 multiplied with a trinomial x squared plus 3x plus 4. So we're going to work with this first term of x, and we're going to multiply it to each of those terms. So x times x squared, x to the third, x times 3x, 3x squared, and x times 4, positive 4x. Then I'm going to take the 2 and do the same thing. 2 times x squared, 2 times 3x, and 2 times 4. Take a look at your terms and see what we have that's alike. X to the third power, don't see anything else, so I'm going to leave that as is. X squared, I have a 3x squared and a 2x squared, so I'm going to add those together. 4x, 6x, add those together. And then that constant of 8, only one that's there. So we're going to let that be. So our final answer is going to be x to the third plus 5x squared plus 10x plus 8. Number 2, very similar. This time trinomials with trinomials. So it's just being careful of how we distribute. 2x squared times x squared gets us 2x to the fourth. 2x squared times x, 2x to the third. 2x squared times negative 5, negative 10x squared. Move on to the next term. Negative 3x times x squared, negative 3x cubed. Negative 3x times x, we're going to have a negative 3x squared. Negative 3x times negative 5, positive 15x. Negative 4 times x squared, negative 4x squared. Negative 4 times x, negative 4x. And negative 4 times 5 turns to positive 20. Lots of terms, big polynomial. So now we're just very careful as we write our final answer. Left to right sometimes is the easiest. So 2x to the fourth, I don't see any other term with x to the fourth, so I'm going to put it down in my answer. 2x to the third, I see a negative 3x to the third, so I'm going to put those together and get negative x to the third. Negative 10x squared minus 3x minus 4x should be negative 17x squared. 15x minus 4x is 11x. And then our constant of 20 has nobody to add with. So I have that final answer. And that is multiplication of all your different polynomials. So there is an assignment for homework that's due by Monday's class time that practices each of these types of multiplications. So you can obviously reference your notes. You can rewatch this video as many times as you'd like to help you work through this. And then Monday, when we're back together, we will review the worksheet and answer any questions that you have regarding multiplication. Have a wonderful St. Patrick's Day. Enjoy your weekend, and I will see you all on Monday.